Look at anything colorful now. Anything. The screen of your cell phone, the shirt you're wearing, an apple in the fruit bowl in the kitchen. You're wrong about what you're seeing. It's not hyperbole. It's not a poetic metaphor. The color that's invading your eyes at this very moment isn't in that thing. It's not in the light coming from it. It didn't come to you from the outside world. It's being built inside your skull in real time by neurons doing calculations before you're even aware that you're seeing anything. The apple isn't red. And there's more. Before this video ends, I'm going to tell you about a color you know by heart that shows up in the names of things every day that you swear you've seen in the sunset, but that doesn't exist. It doesn't have a wavelength. It's not in the light spectrum. You can only see it because your brain invents it in real time to fill a gap in physics. And everyone in the world invents this color in a slightly different way. Think about it with me. You spent your whole life thinking you were seeing the world. That opening your eyes meant seeing things as they are. You never saw anything as it really is, not even once. Pick up an apple. A truly red one of those shiny ones, like in the movies. The sunlight touches it, and you think that light is white, but white light doesn't exist on its own. It's a soup. All the colors together, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, all stuck together in the same beam. The apple does something very strange when that soup touches it. It absorbs almost everything. It eats the green, it eats the blue, it eats the yellow. The chemistry of its peel has molecules called anthocyanins, which lock onto those wavelengths and swallow them. The only part of the soup that these molecules don't want is the red. That one they reject. They send it back. Think about it. What you think of as the apple's color is literally the only color the apple didn't want. It's the trash. It's the piece of light it spat out because its chemistry didn't have a hook to absorb it. You're seeing its rejection. But wait, it gets worse. Even this red that comes from the apple, even this electromagnetic wave measuring exactly 700 nanometers, even that still isn't red. It has no color. It has nothing. It's just an apple, a vibration of an electric field passing through the air. Color will only exist when this vibration enters your eye, hits a cone, turns into an electric pulse, goes up the optic nerve, and your brain decides to create a sensation that it chose to call red. Who called this thing red? You, or rather your brain, without asking you. If the color isn't in the apple or the light, then where is it? You might try to save your intuition with an answer like, the color is in the eyes. Makes sense, that's where light enters. Wrong. The eyes only capture wavelengths, not color. They are dumb receptors, a piece of evolutionary engineering that has existed in various forms for 540 million years. And this is where it gets weird. Different creatures see color in completely different ways. Birds have 4 types of cones compared to your 3, and they see a different violet. For a pigeon in the garden, your shirt has shades of color that you don't even know exist. You're the blind one here, not him. But wait, maybe color is in the nature of light. Like it's an objective property of the universe. Each wavelength has an associated color. Right? Wrong again. If that were true, colorblind people would see those colors too, because the light would be the same. But they don't. About 8% of men live in a world where greens and reds collapse into each other. The light is the same. The color is different. So where was the color then? But wait again. Maybe it's a combination of light, eyes, and brain together. Like color exists in this whole system. That's the least wrong answer, but it's still incomplete. Because if I show you an experiment where the only thing on the wall is red light and white light, and you see blue, green, yellow, colors that aren't there, you're going to have to accept something. Color is not a sum. It's not an average. It's not a simple function of what goes in. Color is a decision. And who decides? This is where it really gets weird. Inside your eye, deep in the retina, there are 3 types of cells called cones. Each one responds to a different range of the spectrum. One gets more excited by long wavelength light, which you call red. Another uses medium wavelength green light. Another uses short wavelength blue light. But listen to this carefully. This is the part that changes everything. These cones don't send color to the brain. They send electricity. electric pulses, pulses per second. More long wavelength light, more pulses from the red cone. Less short wavelength light, fewer pulses from the blue cone. Living math across the spectrum. The brain receives three numbers, that's it. Three raw numbers traveling through the optic nerve at 100 meters per second. And then it does the magic trick. It takes those three numbers. It compares them with what it has learned throughout its whole life. It compares them with what's around that little piece of the image. It calculates ambient light. It adjusts for the shadow. It considers the contrast with the wall behind, and then it releases a sensation called red. You don't see red. You see the output of this calculation, the result. The brain gives it to you already, nicely wrapped, and you think it was out there in the world the whole time. It's like opening a bottle of Coke thinking the fizz will be inside. But the fizz only became fizz when you opened it. Before, inside the closed bottle, it was just pressure. It had no shape, there were no bubbles. You produce the fizz by opening the bottle. Color works the same way. It's not something that travels. It's something that happens inside you, milliseconds after the light arrives, and before your consciousness even realizes that something has entered. Every time you look at someone you love in the face and see the color of their skin, their hair, their eyes, it's your brain doing this magic in real time without telling you. The image of the person you love is in part them, and in part your own invention. The person who realized this most clearly, before modern neuroscience could prove it with scanners, was Richard Feynman. In March 1962 at Caltech, he was giving a lecture on color vision to a room full of sophomore students. I read that lecture last week. It's in Volume 1 of the Feynman Lectures, Chapter 35. And there's a sentence there that stopped me. To paraphrase, he says that physics perfectly describes the light that enters the eye. Wavelength, intensity, polarization. Everything measured, everything known. But what happens next, according to him, are photochemical, neural, and psychological processes. And the full appreciation of what we see needs to go beyond physics. It's not that he was throwing in the towel. He was just being honest about a boundary. And he goes further. He says the retina is already thinking about the light, comparing what it sees in one region with what it sees in another, even before the signal reaches the visual cortex. Think about that. Before your conscious brain knows there's a color, your retina has already made decisions about what color it is. The processing starts in your eyes in the dark, without you telling it to. In another chapter, chapter 36, he admits something that few physicists admit in the classroom. The brain interprets what we see. And how it does that, nobody knows. Nobody knows. That's the phrase that haunts me. The most ordinary thing in your life, opening your eyes and seeing color, is one of the universe's greatest mysteries. More mysterious than black holes, more mysterious than dark matter. At least we know those things are out there. Color is in here, and we don't understand it. This is where things turn upside down. You probably learned in school that Newton, in 1666, solved the problem of color. He took a prism, shone sunlight through the glass, saw the rainbow come out the other side, and proved it. Color is part of light. Each wavelength has its own color. Case closed. The story's actually beautiful. Newton was 23 years old. Cambridge was closed because of the bubonic plague. He was isolated at his family's farm in Lincolnshire, with too much time on his hands. He invented calculus, described gravity, and played with prisms, all in that same year. An absurd, ridiculous year in the life of Isaac Newton. Historians call it the annus mirabilis, the miraculous year. But listen, Newton was right about one thing and wrong about another. He was right that white light contains all the colors, that each color has a specific wavelength, that an object only reflects part of the light that hits it. All of that still holds true. But he made a subtle mistake that remained buried for almost 300 years. He assumed that the color that goes in is the color you see. That if 700 nanometers reach your eye, you see red. Always. That color is a property of light that travels through the air, and the eye just passively captures it. Newton made this logical leap from physics to perception without realizing it. No one noticed for 293 years. The entire physics establishment in Europe repeated that leap as if it were true. In May 1959, a guy named Edwin Land sat in front of an audience in Boston, turned on two projectors on the wall, and did something so simple that Newton would have refused to believe it. He proved that even Newton had been naive. The name was Edwin Land. Maybe you don't know him, but you use his invention every day. He was the one who founded Polaroid in 1937. That machine that spit out a finished photo on the spot. His idea. Land was a businessman scientist, one of those rare types who ran experiments with the same passion that others have for closing deals. In his lab in Cambridge, Massachusetts, he spent years investigating how the human eye perceives color. In May 1959, Land published an article in Scientific American that upended everything people thought they knew. And the real-life experiment is so simple that it seems like a magician's trick. Land takes two photos of the same scene in black and white. Same scene, two shots. The first one is taken with a red filter on the lens. The second one with a green filter. Then he projects the two overlapping photos onto a wall. The first photo with red light, the second photo with white light. Think about what that means. On the wall, physically, what's arriving is red light together with white light. No separate source of pure blue, no separate source of pure green as an isolated color. Two projections, one red and one white, superimposing the two photos. But what the audience saw on the wall was a scene in almost full color. Apples did appear red, yes, but leaves appeared green. Fruits appeared purple. Colors that were not present as isolated sources in what was coming onto the screen. The audience fell silent. Land had shown, in front of everyone, that color is a decision made by the brain, not a measurement of the light that arrives. He couldn't explain it at first. He was forced to invent a new theory, which he called retinex, a combination of retina and cortex. The central idea, the brain doesn't measure absolute light levels. It compares each region with neighboring regions. It uses this comparison to determine the color it displays. The color you see isn't what comes in, it's what the brain calculates after comparing everything it's seeing at once. Your mind is the final composer of the picture. Not the light, not the eyes, your mind. The apple isn't red, you're painting it every time you look at it. Now take a step back with me to see it in perspective. The light you can see, all that light, every rainbow you've ever seen, all the colors that exist in your mind, are in a ridiculous slice of the electromagnetic spectrum. Too small to even fit. Think about that. Electromagnetic waves range from enormous lengths, kilometers long, the size of cities, to tiny lengths, picometers, 1,000 times smaller than an atom. This entire range together is the sum of what exists in the universe in terms of light. And the range your eyes can perceive is about 0.0035% of all that. Not even half 1,000. The rest is happening right now, passing through your body, and you're blind to all of it. Radio waves from your neighbor's phone, Wi-Fi signals crossing your apartment, infrared rays coming from your own body right now. You're glowing right now in infrared, everyone glowing like a warm lamp. A snake on the ground can see that, you can't. Ultraviolet coming through the window, cosmic rays coming from black holes that exploded before Earth even existed. All of that passing through you, constantly. And you can only pick up 0.0035%. There's a passage from Feynman in the program Fun to Imagine, which he recorded for the BBC in 1983, where he describes the eyes as 1/8 inch black holes. That's the image he uses. Tiny little holes on the face tuned to a tiny slice of what exists. Your perception of the world isn't an open window, it's a crack under a door. And worse, even within that crack, from the few frequencies you pick up, your brain invents colors that don't exist in the physical spectrum. Magenta. Magenta is the color I mentioned at the start of the video. The color you know by heart. It's in emojis, in company logos, in bougainvillea flowers at the end of a sunset. But if you look for magenta in the rainbow that comes out of Newton's prism, it's not there. There isn't a wavelength called magenta. Magenta is a decision your brain makes when it receives signals from the red cone and the blue cone at the same time, without the green cone in between. Instead of giving you an honest intermediate color, it invents a unique color stitched together on the spot that doesn't physically exist anywhere and presents it to you as if it were natural. You've spent your whole life seeing magenta and thinking it was a real color. It's an invention. It's a mental patch to cover a gap in physics. And everyone sees magenta in slightly different ways. Think about the people you love the most. Your mother, your father, someone you hugged today, someone you hugged for the last time without knowing it was the last. The red you see when you look at them, when you see the shirt, the lipstick, the skin after a shower, the light in an old photograph. That specific red, that exact red, no one else in the world sees it. It's not poetry, it's neuroscience. Each human brain has calibrated the three cones in a slightly different way. Each visual cortex learned to make slightly different adjustments during childhood based on what each child saw in their first home, with the light from that specific window at those specific times. You built your color system over 6 to 8 years. It was a slow learning process, and it's yours. Two brains couldn't reach this conclusion the same way. You've never shared a color with anyone. Even the person who sleeps next to you in that bed, the one you think you know by heart, sees the blue ceiling in a shade of blue that only they can see. You see the same ceiling, but your blue is a different blue. And both of you spent your whole lives agreeing that it was blue, even if internally they're private inventions with no chance of translation. There's something rare. Recent research suggests that about 12% of women have a fourth type of cone in their retinas. They're called tetrachromats. They can potentially see 100 million colors compared to your 1 million. Most of them don't know they have it. They go through their whole lives seeing a world richer than yours, without knowing that other people are seeing less. On the other hand, 8% of men have some form of color blindness. They spend their lives seeing a less rich world, unaware that others see more. And all the while we agree. You say, look how beautiful it is. You say, what a nice red. You take a piece of the same apple and bite into it together, thinking we're seeing the same thing. We're not. We never were. But the apple is still sweet for us both. And maybe that's what matters. The color is inside you, and it's yours alone. And no one else will see the red you're seeing now. Not today, not ever. Feynman used to say that understanding things doesn't take away their beauty, the deep beauty. I think he was right. But I only really started to feel that after I understood color. Before, red was a property of the apple. Like weight, like smell, something that was just there, ordinary. Now every time I look at a fruit, I see a private miracle. There's an apple there. It's rejecting red light. That light travels a meter through air without being anything, just a vibration in the electric field. It enters my eye, passes through 3 types of cells, turns into electricity, crosses the optic nerve in hundreds of milliseconds, and reaches parts of the visual cortex, which are calculating, comparing, deciding, and then pop, a feeling comes up inside me that no one else in the universe will have exactly the same. I see red. It's just me alone in that moment seeing that red. And when I die, that specific red dies with me. The apple is not red. The apple is the place where, for a moment, your consciousness decided that something was red. And no one else has ever been in that place. Red and the apple.